All right, here we are. Time for tax tips in 10 minutes or less. I'm Dean Barber along with Corey Holstein, CPA. Corey, thanks for taking time to be with me.
Yeah, glad to be here, Dean.
All right, let's talk about the Trump accounts. This was part of, you call it OB3, our friend Ed Slott calls it ABBA, right? It's the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that created a Trump account, which people can open for anybody age 0 up to age 18. And they'll be able to open it sometime next year. So there's some unique provisions here, and there are children born within a certain time frame that the government's actually going to fund this account with $1,000.
Correct. If your child was born between January 1st of 2025 through December 31st of 2028, then that child will receive a $1,000 deposit from the U.S. government into their own Trump account.
Okay, so let's make sure that people understand, first of all, a Trump account is really like a non-deductible IRA for an individual that has no earnings, right? Because before, in order to make contributions to an IRA, you had to have earned income to make that contribution. For the Trump account, there is no earned income. So now we're not pretending that the baby is going to be the one making the contributions. It's the parents or the grandparents that can make the contributions. And what's the limit that they can put in each year?
So each year there's a $5,000 annual contribution limit today.
Okay. So the $5,000 limit, and then we'll get into some of the details here. One of the things I find unique about this, and I'll say why I think it's unique here in just a minute, but one of the things I find unique is that they are requiring that the investment be put into a low-cost mutual fund or an ETF that tracks the S&P 500 index or another index comprised solely of stocks. So that's a different thing. That's saying, hey, you're going to put the money in here, but it's got to be invested in the stock market.
Yeah, and I'd be interested in what your thought there is, Dean, but to me, it's the government kind of forcing your hand to say, you're not touching any of this money, which there are some restrictions on that as well. But we know you're not going to touch this money for, call it 18 years, 10 years, where however old the child is. We're going to force you to make this money grow, right? And we're stimulating the economy, putting more money into that S&P fund, which is the U.S. economy overall.
Here's where I think it's jacked, okay? He should have been doing the same thing with your Social Security contributions for the last 60 or 70 years or however long. Look, if every person, the dollars that they put into Social Security and the dollars that the employer was forced to match were all invested in the stock market, we would not have an issue with Social Security solvency at this point in time. In fact, we'd have one hell of a surplus.
It's an interesting thought there, but yes, I don't love my Social Security benefit growing at 1.3% or wherever that number ended up over historically.
Yeah. It's again, it's a poor use of funds that we're forced to save. Now this, I like the idea that we have to put this into a low cost ETF or a mutual fund that tracks the S&P 500 index. So we talked about we put $5,000 a year in. It's non-deductible for the contributors. So grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, we can fund this thing. Total maximum though, it's not like $5,000 each person can do it. It's maximum for that child is $5,000 per year.
Correct. And that's the distinction there, Dean. For mom and dad, grandpa and grandma, there is no tax benefit up front by making this contribution for the grandchild.
Okay, so there's contributions and earnings on this cannot be touched until when?
Age 18. When the beneficiary of the account turns age 18 is when they can treat the account as their own, take distributions from that account. But to your point there, Dean, it is going to operate very similar to a non-deductible IRA, meaning the money you put in was after tax. The growth on that money is pre-tax. So when we take a distribution from these types of accounts, you're looking at that pro rata rule. If 40% of the account was what you put in, 60% is the growth, and I take 10,000 out, 4,000 of that was what I put in, 6,000 was my growth component, taxable today.
And potentially a 10% penalty on that taxable portion, right?
Correct.
Have they clarified what the rules are around that 10% penalty? Because there's some exceptions for the 10% penalty. I got a sheet here somewhere that goes over all the exceptions, but one of the exceptions is higher education.
Yeah, and that's going to be the main exception here. Now, there's still a lot to be determined with these Trump accounts, but private education being the main exception there. When we think about things like the traditional IRA type of accounts, there are things for first-time home buyers or abuse victims and all these special carve-outs to that 10% penalty. It's likely that the Trump accounts will follow a similar pattern there, but there's still a lot up in the air here, Dean.
Yeah, and it looked like they originally had something in here where they would require withdrawals at age 31, but looks like that was removed. And so, before the first year of the calendar date at which the child turns age 18, the contributions had to be invested in that low-cost ETF. But then after the calendar year, the first day of the calendar year that the child turns 18, then they can change the investment to whatever they want. So essentially, it sounds like at the calendar year, first day of the calendar year that child turns 18, this turns into like a regular IRA for that 18-year-old.
And it won't roll to an IRA. It will stay in this Trump account status as it is tax deferred. But yes, the rules are very, very similar to this non-deductible IRA.
And it sounds like there's the potential, if a person wanted to, I don't think that legislation had been clear yet, but it sounds like there's the potential that should that person choose, they could actually convert that Trump account to a Roth IRA at age 18 or later.
Correct. And this is where things start to get interesting for us, Dean, because if we think about what this child's income at 18 is going to be, it's not a lot.
Right.
It would be our assumption. And we have basis on that account, meaning that we converted that full account over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years when the child turns 18, there's some pretty significant tax savings that can happen for that child over the lifetime.
So let's play that out here. Let's say that we can do a conversion, and we'll just make a couple of assumptions here. We funded this Trump account with $5,000 a year for 18 years. That means we put $90,000 into the Trump account. At an 8% growth rate, it's going to be roughly $190,000 at age 18. So you got about $100,000 worth of growth. You got $90,000 worth of basis. That child's 18 years old. What if I were to convert, say, $25,000 a year for 4 years while that child is in college and was not working? What's the tax rate on a $25,000 income? Because you're going to get your standard deduction at that point in time is going to be in excess of $15,000, right?
Correct.
So you might have taxable income of 10.
Correct.
What's the tax rate on that?
10%.
Okay, so it's $1,000 to get 25. So you could convert that whole thing over 4 years for maybe $4,000.
And I'll clarify that even a little bit more, Dean. If we take 25,000 out, roughly 45% was our basis. So you're only taking 12,000 of income.
Well, I'm thinking about
on the 25.
I'm thinking about doing 25% of the whole account, right?
Sure.
So I want to get that whole account converted in 4 years. I'm just saying that the growth portion, the taxable portion of it would be about $25,000. So am I going to lose $1,000 a year in taxes? That's a pretty simple deal. Then to have maybe a $200,000 Roth IRA when a kid comes out of college, we could let that thing compound now for what, 50, 60 years, 40 years? I mean, look, you're going to have a lot of money in that Roth account. What a great gift.
What a great gift and a great start to life. Maybe don't tell the grandchild that they got this much money sitting in a Roth tax-free, right? Let's let that money grow. Make sure you encourage these dependents to let that money grow until they reach that age of 60.
Yeah, and another piece of this, Corey, is once that child has reached age 18, now they can make contributions to it just like it is a traditional IRA. So in the current year, we can put up to $7,000 a year into an IRA as a deductible IRA. So there's all kinds of things that what I think this really does is it sets that child up to achieve financial independence far sooner than their parents ever could have, because you're given the benefit of that compound interest for an extra 18 years. Maybe in most cases, maybe it's an extra 22 or 23 years, because most people don't start saving until their first job out of college, significantly saving, especially in something like a 401k where they're invested in the market.
Yeah, and then the big differentiator here, Dean, is no earned income is needed, right? Because that is really the barrier for a lot of the grandparents who want to make a Roth contribution, for example, to their grandkids. there's not a great way when you're 7 years old to make that contribution. Here's a great path to achieve that.
There's still more to be learned here. You can't open one of these accounts until probably June or July of 2026. And who knows, it could be like some of the other things where they kick the can down the road because they can't figure out how to put the whole thing together. Nonetheless, this could be a great planning opportunity for parents and grandparents who really want to do something significant for their kids. Corey, thanks for taking time to join me here on America's Wealth Management Show for tax tips in 10 minutes or less.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Until next time, everybody stay healthy and stay safe.
The views expressed represent the opinion of Modern Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Modern Wealth Management does not accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action.